Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you from Harry Reid International Airport in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Been down here on vacation with Gun Law Junior. We had a great time. Scorpions rocked the house last night. But listen, just had an opportunity to do an interview with Pete Serrano about all the shenanigans that's happening in Washington State. What happened last week? How could it possibly happen? And what's left ahead for us? And most importantly, what can you all do to help the cause? So today, let's spend a few minutes right here from Las Vegas, Nevada, and talk about how you can help win the magazine battle in Washington State. Okay, like I said, I'm about to fly back to Seattle, spend a few days down here in Las Vegas, not really doing a lot on the channel. However, there was big developments that happened starting Monday with the injunction and then the stay of the injunction. We got Pete Serrano here. We're going to talk about everything. As you know, he is the lead plaintiff's counsel. So without further ado, let's hear from Pete. Hey, everybody, check it out. We got Pete Serrano. Now, Pete's in the Tri-Cities. I'm down here at Harry Reid International Airport in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Pete, I want to actually start at the end, and then we'll work our way back. This is a huge battle that you guys are engaged in, and it's a long way from over. I want you to tell my viewers right now how they can start getting behind the Silent Majority Foundation, get behind Wally down at Gators Guns. What can my viewers do to help you guys?
Absolutely. The first thing is to donate to Silent Majority Foundation. We've got a link. I'm sure Bill will pop it in. There's one specific to the Gators Guns case. So if you can, could use the funding. It's taking at least two of us, and we've had our intern working this pretty heavily. So, and as you can imagine, as you said, at the end, I see this ending in the Supreme Court of the United States. So, to really push it further, this thing's going to go long and hard and as fast as possible.
Well, this is a fight we have to pick. We have to pick this fight, and we have to pick it right now. Okay. Now, speaking of picking the fight, congratulations. I read all 50 plus pages out of the judge down at Calais County. I think it's a very Roger Benitez-like ruling, very thorough. Clearly, the Silent Majority Foundation really briefed this case. Were you a little surprised at how thorough the trial court was in its ruling?
I will say this. It's not typical of a trial court to be that thorough, but I will tell you, Judge Basher, and we've talked about this before. One, he was trial court in a really critical firearms case for Washington State, Jorgensen v. State. So I think he I felt like throughout the hearings in the trial, we haven't been to trial, but the hearings, he kind of carried this weight of, I know what's on me. I've been there, done that, and I want to cross my T's and dot my I's. So while I didn't expect 55 pages, I knew he'd have a lot of thorough analysis. And I loved, and you and I have talked about this, in the back end, he starts going a segment on the Washington Constitution, then a segment on the U.S. Constitution. He's always analyzing, kind of intermingling them, and then he just flat out breaks it down and says one, then two.
Well, and then he's also taken all of the Attorney General's arguments and systematically picking them apart piece by piece, and did an excellent job. And if you guys haven't geeked out on that memorandum yet, we're going to link it up down below. Now, Pete, of course, the thing that everyone is completely still shell-shocked over is this injunction that you were able to obtain. Washington residents lasted all of about 88 minutes. Now, explain to the viewers how the hell that can happen.
Yeah, the short duration of the injunction is, here's the process. You get a decision, and if it's got a fundamental or a right that's attached to it under the Constitution, you can appeal that to the Supreme Court. And what happens with a lot of these cases is some will actually go to the commissioner. Now, the commissioner is, I know you've talked about him,
Yeah, you don't want to get me too started, but
ad nauseum.
But this thing doesn't go to one of the 9 justices. It goes to a court commissioner. Why is that?
No. Well, typically what you see is like the lower level stuff goes to these commissioners. But I will say this, the state's found a great avenue for itself. I think I've talked to you about this. One of the first case that we filed, the Silent Majority Foundation, was our Johnson case, where it was a question of whether or not a case should be heard and where the venue was. And the commissioner decided that when we were challenging Jay Inslee's emergency order under the COVID vax mandate.
This is the one out of Franklin County, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so it's interesting that, his footprint has really grown in his tenure. again, usually you'll see something like the pro se appellants, those who are not represented, a lot of prisoners, not to decry those civil rights, but you'll see a lot of those, and he'll kind of gatekeep them and say, oh, this doesn't even really have an issue that goes here. And then
Mm-hmm.
he'll dismiss them or however he handles them. Or he'll say, hey, Supreme Court, you actually need to look at this. And it's kind of like passing the buck from,
Kind of
the
a
minor leagues
gatekeeper
to
in
the
a
big
way, right?
leagues. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then why does the gatekeeper in this case, and we all know this is a big issue. This is a big issue for everybody. And there's strong feelings on both sides of the issue here, okay? Why do you believe the court commissioner just sua sponte stays that injunction, never kicks it upstairs to any one of the 9 justices?
I honestly, aside from that's kind of the plan that was it already hatched, there's no real rational reason that that would happen.
Now, I don't do appellate work like you do. So tell me this. How is it possible to get something filed and heard and ruled on in less than 90 minutes? I can't even get bail hearings on people that quickly.
Yeah, look, if it were a 5-page opinion, I wouldn't have batted an eye. But mind you, it was a 55-page opinion with almost 900 pages of record that was transmitted. So, yeah, I mean, it's not possible that it was actually read. Bottom line is he looked at it, said LCMs, large capacity magazines, or as we call them, standard capacity with more than 10 rounds, are somehow a public hazard, public nuisance, and public health and welfare required him to stay this. That's really what his 2 pages said.
Right. So we have a 55-page, very well-reasoned opinion, followed by a 2-page stay of that order by someone who clearly did not read the trial court's order. Would you agree with that?
I would. Okay. I do.
Okay. Now, I understand we got a huge hearing coming up, though, because now Attorney General Ferguson wants to basically skip the Court of Appeals. I did a little quick video to kind of explain that to our viewers. Wants to go directly to the Supreme Court, which if I was the Attorney General, I wouldn't mind arguing down there either. Tell the viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there are 2 tracks here. The first one is the hearing, as you mentioned. There is one that is going to be publicly visible on TVW. I don't have that link offhand. But it's the standard TVW link for the Supreme Court Commissioner. That will be Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. And that will be the hearing after the stay question's been briefed on whether or not the stay stays. I know that's saying stay a lot, but...
Yeah, I know. But so theoretically, we could get a ruling. Theoretically, I'm not hopeful, but theoretically, we could get a ruling where the stay is lifted, thus the injunction is back in place, and we're living freer like Americans again. Agreed?
Yes, but mind you, this is before Commissioner Johnston. So,
right.
Okay,
we'll go outside and throw rocks at the moon too. Sure.
Yes, right. So hypothetically, it could happen. Right. And I will tell you, and I just shot you, and I'm sure you haven't looked at it. Austin and I worked about a 30-page response to the stay motion. A lot of it has to do with the only allegations of protection of health and welfare, nothing more than hypothetical. Even the state's experts landed on the fact, and it is simply a fact, that the number of mass shootings in the past 40 years is less than 10 in the state of Washington. So this hypothetical harm that could be done, that could be eradicated by the stay, is no more than hypothetical.
Well, but if we're even getting into the area of public health and safety, aren't we getting into a balancing test at that point? Because we're going to balance the infringement on the individual right versus the societal benefits of that infringement. The old 2-part balancing test where the judges used to be able to put their thumbs on the scale. But last time I checked the case law, that was thrown out on its ass about 2 summers ago.
Yep, and we did call that not into question. We put that out there in this brief too. So
because I read in Commissioner Johnston's order on stay that this was all about public health. So it would appear that the stay was granted based upon a now deemed inappropriate balancing test. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, the big hearing on Wednesday, and then where do we go after Wednesday? Let's assume the stay stays in place, which you and I, if we're betting men, and I don't bet, but thank God, because I'm down here right now. But if we were betting men, we're both going to put money on the fact that the injunction will remain stayed. Agreed?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Where do we go after that then?
Yeah, so the state's already filed its notice of appeal to the Supreme Court on the actual merits. The 55-page is not the pretend to read it. Well, right. I can't promise the Supreme Court will read it, but
yeah.
But
why isn't that going to Division II Court of Appeals?
Because there's a constitutional question, they can go straight to the Supreme Court.
Okay, so will the AG be granted review by the Supreme Court as a matter of right, or is that still discretionary for the Supreme Court to accept that they could choose not to, and Division Two would then take it?
Yeah, it is discretionary review. The likelihood that they deny that, I mean,
they're salivating on this one.
Let's keep betting, Bill. Let's keep betting.
Yeah, right. Okay, I want to make sure I can afford my flight home.
Right.
Now, okay, what else do you want the viewers to know? And then we're going to circle back one more time on how they can help out everyone over at the Silent Majority Foundation. What else do we need to know about important dates coming up?
Yeah, I mean, so those are the only dates that we have in stone for this case. But soon we will have a briefing schedule or a denial from the state Supreme Court. Again, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely, yeah.
I want to be clear about this though, because we briefed this and addressed the Second Amendment under the United States Constitution. This does help us get quicker to the United States Supreme Court after a decision from the state Supreme Court, assuming it's not how we want it.
Yeah. Let me explain to my viewers what Pete's talking about there. So the Silent Majority Foundation has argued this case both under Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution, as well as the Second Amendment, which means that opens the door to review by federal courts. Now, if you take a look at the litigation going on down in Oregon under Ballot Measure 114, that's exclusively under the Oregon State Constitution. So that matter will never be able to make it out of Oregon. Again, by the way, the plaintiffs have chosen to attack that issue down there. Agreed with that?
Yeah, and I appreciate you calling in 114 because I got an email from plaintiffs counsel in Kotek v. Arnold.
Yeah.
And they actually, the state appellate court there denied the stay.
Yeah, I just tweeted about that today. So obviously their court probably read Judge Raccio's opinion.
Well, there was 8 pages, so in single space, so a little bit more than the 2 that we got.
All right, hey, Pete, one last time, I want you to tell, well, actually, before we go there, I'm going to tell everybody that, hey, let's remember that this guy right here, Pete Serrano, is trying to become your next Attorney General. And if you guys already know what the Attorney General is all about, and if you didn't know, now you do know. So I want everybody, when you're done watching this video, get online, serranoforag.com. You know I'm a big Pete Serrano fan. I want everyone to have some skin in the game. We need Pete to be our next Attorney General. Now that I've done the plug for Pete, why don't you tell everyone how they can help out Silent Majority Foundation and Wally down at Gators Guns? Because I know Wally is just kind of clinging there, hanging on, trying to get through this thing.
He is. And I will tell you, I've stopped into other FFL shops in my travels for running for Attorney General. 1, they're extremely grateful. They know what's going on. And 2, they're hurting too. So it's not just Wally, it's the industry wide in the state of Washington. So we got to support you. Viewer have to support your local FFL. Amen. That said, you can support Silent Majority Foundation through the link that Bill's going to drop in below. It's specific to the Gators Guns case, silentmajorityfoundation.org. And I got to give a shout out, my whole team at SMF, certainly Austin Hatcher, he's crushed it on this one. He and I have worked this thing in tandem. He's put a lot of the meat into this. So, Austin, big props, man.
Kudos. And hey, listen, the Silent Majority Foundation needed this win. You guys have been banging your head into a brick wall for years. Like the one-party state, that's what we get. It's nice we got ourselves into a venue where we could actually have a fair hearing. You guys absolutely crushed it. Pete, all the best to you and everyone at the Silent Majority Foundation. And again, I'm going to remind everyone, Serrano for AG 2024. Pete, thanks a million.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it, brother.
Okay, once again, I want to thank Pete Serrano and everybody over at the Silent Majority Foundation for all their tremendous work. For those of you who have not yet read the order out of Cowlitz County, we're going to link it up down below. It is a really, really good job by the judge, and it goes to show that the plaintiffs here at the Silent Majority Foundation did a fantastic job briefing it. Listen, we're going to link up everything down below so that if you guys want to get some skin in the game, because we need all of you to be involved, you can go ahead and help out the Silent Majority Foundation. If you want to help Pete Serrano become your next Attorney General, the links to do that are down there as well. If you guys got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information's down there in the description box. And then finally, let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. From Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thanks for watching and stay safe.